Hi, thanks, Ali. I'm Orla O'Connor, and I'm the director of the National Women's Council. And my physical description is I have glasses. Sorry, is that not okay? The sound?
Oh, that's great. I'll just do some muting, Orla. Please carry on.
Sorry. Oh, no, I thought it was my sound. Apologies. So yeah, my physical description is that I have glasses. I've sort of blondie, grey, reddy hair going down to my neck. That is a bit long because I still haven't got my COVID haircut. And I'm also light-skinned as well. And I'm just really delighted to be here this morning. I'm joined as well, or this afternoon, with my colleague Catherine Lane as well from the National Women's Council. And just a little bit about myself, I'm 9 years now the director of the National Women's Council, and it's a position that I'm really proud to be leading the National Women's Council. I represent the Women's Council in a range of national and international fora. I'm a feminist, and I've been involved in lots of campaigns for women's rights on many issues, on social welfare reform, childcare, on reproductive rights. So I'm really passionate and really enjoy the position that I have. And I'm really delighted to be jointly hosting this online gathering, solidarity and sharing with disabled women and with the Independent Living Movement Ireland and Disabled Women Ireland. I think it's an absolute pleasure. I think that we're doing this together. We wanted to work together to provide an opportunity for disabled women's activists in Ireland and also globally to discuss how we can learn and support each other, and also to build greater international solidarity in our work. For those of you who don't know us, the National Women's Council, we're the leading women's representative organisation in Ireland. We're a feminist organisation, and our membership represents over 190 member organisations across the country and across the island of Ireland. And it's a very diverse organisation with women from so many different locations, representing so many different organisations. And it really does reflect women in all our diversity. Disabled women are organising and working together through disabled people's organisations, such as Disabled Women Ireland, and also informally in their own collectives. And this work needs to be meaningfully resourced and also practically supported if we're serious about increasing disabled women's participation at all levels of society. Disabled women have often been invisible in discourse on disability and gender. And it's sometimes assumed that policies and practices are gender neutral, and there's a lack of understanding of the ways in which gender and disability issues interact. In practice, gender inequalities in the structures of our society combine with disadvantages experienced by people with disabilities to create particular forms of exclusion and discrimination for disabled women. Disabled women encounter and experience such a wide range of barriers to full equality in terms of accessing the labour market, access to health services, including screening, access to reproductive services. And we know that disabled women are underrepresented across all areas of leadership in public life. Since February 2020, in the Women's Council, we've been working collectively with a group of disabled women. And this gathering today is really a culmination of their energy and vision to come together in a spirit of sisterhood and solidarity to advance disability rights on an international level. The purpose of the group is to work with the National Women's Council to ensure that disabled women are more effectively represented across all of the work of our organisation. And through working together, we are strengthening our advocacy and campaigning work and championing spaces where disabled women take the lead and organisations are led by disabled women. Creating and supporting this space has been such a really important and a valuable part of the work in the Women's Council over the past months. Women's experiences and voices are always at the centre of our mobilisation and movement building work, and that's why this work is so important. We will continue to make visible the issues and experience of disabled women across our organisation and in our wider policy and our campaigns and our strategic development. And in doing so, it is of real importance to us that this work is led by disabled women and that your voices, participation are championed and supported. We absolutely need a cultural shift in our society in terms of how we view disabled women so that their rights are fully realised. And we must ensure that the needs, priorities and voices of disabled women are actively considered and supported at all levels of society. I look forward to continuing to work with our members, the Irish Deaf Women of Ireland, the Independent Living Movement Ireland, and developing the work of disabled women's groups within our organisation. So thank you, and I really look forward to the discussion that we're going to have today. So I'm now delighted to introduce you to Maureen McGovern, who's a member of the National Women's Council Disabled Women's Group and has been a disability rights activist and campaigner for as long as I can remember, both locally and nationally for so many years. And I'm really delighted because I haven't seen you, Maureen, in a long time. So I'm really delighted to introduce you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Orla. Just a description of myself. I've got short, kind of all colours in my hair, like brown and kind of like red, and I'm white. I've got glasses on me. I've got a green scarf and a white background. Yeah, Orla very kindly says that she knows me for a long time, but I think I was born a little bit before Orla, so I've been kind of an activist, a disability activist, since in my early 20s, and I'm now 64. That's been my life mission, and to ensure that I, as a disabled person, can be actively involved in and choose how to be involved in my society. So thanks, Orla, for that. And as Orla says, that yes, I am a member of the National Women's Council Disabled Women's Working Group, and I am delighted to welcome you here to this gathering today. We came together to share. We come together here to share information and ideas, inform the National Women's Council strategy work, and to contribute to a human rights narrative of disabled women and marginalised gender, paying attention to the intersectional issues. The group is about supporting and creating spaces and direct voices, activism, and participation of disabled women, clearly articulating the social, economic, culture, and political rights. It is so important that disabled women are equally active, heard, and influenced in all women's spaces, shaping the women's equality movement in Ireland. I would encourage all disabled women to get involved where decisions are being made that affect our lives. The women's movement must reflect on how it works to create inclusive and effective spaces for all women on an equal basis. We are thrilled, and I am personally thrilled as well, and to be in sisterhood and solidarity today with disabled women across the globe. Have a great time. Send you back to Ali. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Maureen. That's such an inspiring opening from both you and from Orla. So with that, with our host having kind of welcomed us and set the scene, it's now my honor to introduce the two leaders of our event, the hosts of the conversations and designers of this event themselves. And I'm going to start with just bringing up Selena Bonney, and she will tell you more about what is happening today and where it all came from.
Hey, thanks, Ali. Well, as was already said, my name is Selena Bonney, and I'm delighted to be here with you today from kind of sunny Dublin. I have many identities, but first of all, I'll tell you, I've got short, spiky grey hair, purple rimmed glasses, long earrings, and I'm not quite white due to my Indian Irish heritage, which I'm extremely proud of. But today, as I said, I have many identities. I'm a woman, I'm a disabled person, I'm mixed race, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I'm also a public servant in the local authority sector, and I'm a reproductive justice activist. I'm also the vice chair of Independent Living Movement Ireland, which is an active member of the emerging disabled people's organisation movement within Ireland. And I think it's quite an exciting time for DPOs at the moment in this country. However, today I'm just here as Selena, a proud disabled woman who's looking forward to an afternoon of sharing and learning. The global COVID-19 pandemic has been and continues to be a devastating experience for all, but more so for disabled persons. More and more our rights have been eroded over the past year and a half. One benefit, however, because I'm an eternal optimist, to come from the pandemic is the wider use of technology for communication and collaboration. It would have been significantly more difficult pre-pandemic for almost 100 or more of us to come together as we are today. The purpose of this gathering is to use the virtual world to connect disabled women from around the world to share experiences, peer support, and share solutions. As disabled women, we each face adversity, barriers, and prejudice every day. We are constantly problem solving and innovating as individuals. Today, we hope will be the start of problem solving and innovating together, reaching out to fellow disabled women to support them to find their power and voice. I'd like to share just a very quick little story with you about, for me, where the very basic idea for today originates. Back in April 1998, I spent some time traveling around Serbia, Kosovo, and Albania, meeting with disabled persons to share ideas of disability equality, independent living, and self-advocacy. This was actually facilitated by Gordana Rajkov, who was one of today's speakers. While in Tirana, Albania, I met with a group of about 12 disabled women. All were wheelchair users. As we chatted, I discovered that each woman had held very important positions prior to becoming disabled. They were doctors, lawyers, architects, and so on. But each woman's career ended when they became disabled. They were just at home from then. I was struck, and it really stuck with me, by their wasted talent and crushed dreams. I've never forgotten those women, and it is my hope and wish that today will be the start of finding a way to reach out to our sisters around the world, to support them and each other, to break down barriers and support each other to live the quality, dignified, purposeful lives that we desire. And well, that's enough from me. I'm much more interested to listen to all of you. So I'm delighted to hand over now to my fellow conversation host, Nem.
Thank you very much, Selena. My name is Nem Kearns. I'm a white non-binary person with short platinum hair, a black and white striped shirt sitting against a white background. I currently serve on the board of Disabled Women Ireland, which is Ireland's only national disabled persons organisation for women, girls, non-binary people and gender non-conforming people. And I'm also a founding member of Autistic Adults Ireland. So I'll keep this brief so we can move on to the interesting people who will speak after me. So just to kind of put it in context, Selena has spoken eloquently of where this idea came from and what we're hoping, that solidarity we're hoping to build today and to build on into the future. And I'm just going to kind of speak a bit as to why it's important. So 1 in 5 women in the world are disabled, according to the UN. And that means that there are more than 500 million disabled women worldwide, which also means there are more than 500 million experiences amongst those disabled women worldwide. However, there are experiences we share and histories that bind us across the borders. All over the world, disabled women are much more likely to live in consistent poverty, be denied education and employment, to be institutionalized against their will, to face reproductive coercion and experience sexual violence when compared both against non-disabled women and against disabled men. Disabled women are more likely to die during pregnancy and childbirth than non-disabled women. They're more likely to undergo forced sterilization or abortion, or to have their children forcibly removed by the state. They encounter far more barriers in accessing healthcare and disability-related supports, and are often made invisible by the negative attitudes, shaming and stigma that exist in all countries and across all continents. Disabled women and other gender minority people experience and navigate the world in unique ways, encountering intersecting barriers created by ableism and sexism alongside any other identities they carry. And yet gender minority disabled people voices are amongst the least likely to be heard at decision-making tables worldwide. As I'm sure all our speakers today have experienced, all too often disabled women voices go unheard in conversations about our rights, needs, and lives. This is particularly true for disabled women and other gender minorities. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was important in many ways, among which was the specific attention it drew to the experience of disabled women and girls and the obligation it placed on any country which signed up to it to prioritise disabled persons' organisations in all policies which affect disabled people's lives. I'm honoured to be joined by women working with DPOs around the world, as well as outstanding activists and advocates in their own right, and to have the opportunity to learn from them about their own work and how they continue to make sure the voices of disabled gender minority people are heard around the globe. As a board member of a national DPO in Ireland, I'm very excited to listen to the speakers and to build on a foundation of international solidarity in our work ahead. So I'll pass back to Selena for the first panel, which I'm very excited about.
Thanks, Nem. Well, I'm delighted to be joined here today on this panel, or on our virtual couch, as we've been referring to it during our planning time over the last while, by 4 wonderful, amazing disabled women, 2 of which are from Ireland. That's Jo from Ireland. We've also got Barbara from England, Ruth from Malawi, and Rosaline from Ireland as well. Rather than my listing 4 incredibly impressive bios, I'm going to give each speaker the opportunity to say hello, tell you a little bit about themselves, including a short visual description, before we get into the meat of the session, which is a good chat, a good discussion. So we'll start off with Jo.
Sarah, I can't see the video. The interpreter can't see the videos.
Okay, hold on. So we'll just take a moment just to check. So the interpreter, I have brought up all the speakers into multi-spotlight view. So if you put it onto speaker view, you should see when I leave, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
no,
6.
Sorry, I'm sorry. My colleague is going to have to take over because all my videos are gone.
Okay, great.
Let's
okay. And let me know behind the scenes if there's anything
I need to log out and back in.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll wait for your colleague to come in. Or I'll let you do that, Sarah.
Yeah.
So just take a moment. This is a nice moment for us to breathe before we start. So great. So Vanessa, yeah, I'll take you down, Vanessa, and I will leave as well. And hand back to you, Selena.
I'll hand back to Jo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joanne, and I'm a deaf woman. I have glasses and I have very long dark brown hair. It's wavy, and I'm a white woman from Ireland. I am the chairperson of the National Deaf Women of Ireland, and I have around 8 years experience in advocacy work within the deaf community, within a variety of different areas, including the ISL Act. And I am delighted to be here as well, so thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Joanne. Apologies for calling you Jo. Next, we go to Barbara.
No, it's fine, of course.
Hi, my name's Barbara Lisicki. I've got blonde bobbed hair, very black eye makeup, red lips, and I have been an activist for more than 30 years. And one of the main things that I have done, I suppose, is been arrested a lot because I was part of a group called DAN that focused on direct action, and we handcuffed ourselves to buses and blocked traffic in different cities and got arrested so that we could force the issue and make politicians discuss it. And also for anti-discrimination legislation, and it worked alongside obviously lots of other initiatives. And we got at least something resembling accessible transport in the UK.
Thanks, Barbara. And actually, there was much cheering in my sitting room a while ago when the archive footage was played on the news celebrating the anniversary of the UK legislation. Ruth, please, over to you. think your sound is muted, Ruth.
I think she's just looking to unmute. I've sent you a little message to unmute, Ruth. Over to you.
All right, thank you, ladies. Hi, once again. I'm Ruth Nkotomola. I am the African Black woman from Malawi, and I represent the organization Disabled Women in Africa. And so I am the country director of UDIWA, an organization which was founded in 2002, but of course founded in Malawi in about 2012. And of course, my entry into the disability sector dates back to 2013 when I had knowledge of issues of injustice and discrimination faced by persons with disability. And of course, as some of you might know, the late Rachel Kachaje, who was amongst the women who founded the organization with other ladies in Tanzania, where they had seen the gaps that existed for women with disabilities in Africa in general. The voices were not really strong, and we thought that what women are experiencing in Africa is almost the same or similar issues, and so we needed to come together to fight the injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And finally to Rosaleen, and I must say Rosaleen was also the cause of much cheering in my house when we got the news that she had become Dr. Rosaleen. So great to have you with us today, Rosaleen.
Lovely to be here, Selena. And I mean, I don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. And so many of you, I know you for years, and we tried and we, over various times, I guess, disabled women and deaf women together, and I'm unfortunately one of those women who couldn't continue the struggle, and I took time out. So I really admire like Maureen and others, Mary T, and loads more, Jackie, because I went off and did in the university. Well, they did all the hard work. I also want to pay tribute to Orla O'Connor. I was privileged to be a board member of the Women's Council for about 5 years, and I learned an awful lot. And I know Orla was always very keen and enthusiastic about the inclusion of deaf and disabled women. And in closing, for my intro, I suppose a lot of my life and my energy and my feminist analysis, and I know Bridget Kelly is here, and for those outside Ireland, I'm a member of the traveller community / Roma and rural indigenous minority ethnic group, and we would experience racism, sexism, and some of us ableism. So I have to acknowledge my work and my activism hasn't always spilled over in a tidy way, both within traveller politics and disabled women's politics. But I'm really, really emotional and rational as well, and mostly delighted that we're all here. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rosaleen. Well, now that we've all said hello and gotten to know each other a little bit, I'm going to start off with the first question. And that is, in Europe, for you, particularly for those, say, from outside.
sorry, Selena, sorry, just before you pose the question, because we had a little changeover with the interpretation, I wondered if we could do one more changeover now that our second interpreter is back, and then carry on. Would you mind if we just take a pause to do that? I'll just bring up the next interpreter. Okay, so thank you very much, Selena. Thank you, everyone. And back to you with your question.
Okay.
Sorry, Ali, just 2 seconds. I'll just spotlight the interpreter there.
I'll do it.
Great. Are we okay? Brilliant. So first of all, I think it would be really good to know, particularly for people from such diverse countries, what are the most urgent issues facing disabled women and disabled gender minorities in either in your country, or I'm conscious we have 2 people here from Ireland, but you would have quite different experiences of Ireland as well. So if I throw that out, whoever would like to, maybe we'll go to Joe first. We might go to a similar order. Vanessa.
Yeah, the interpreter was muted. Really sorry about that. I'll get there in the end. Okay, so as you know, women are always are being discriminated against, and then we have the double of having the disability as well. So I'm not just saying deaf women are worse than other people, but deaf women from linguistic minorities, as well. The challenge can be access to language. And for deaf women, of course, they would have preferred, their sign language would be their first and preferred language, and Irish Sign Language here in Ireland, of course. So the struggle for access there to services and information, to literature, etc., can be a struggle. And, some public services as well, they provide interpreters, and because of the new legislation that was put in place, so they have an obligation to provide sign language interpreters. But again, you have the attitude, and we have to keep campaigning. And, even though the legislation is there, say, for example, if you're going for a hospital appointment and you want an interpreter or health service or maternity care or whatever, for them to provide the interpreter, you have to jump through rigs and, jigs and rails just to get the interpreter provided in the first place. It's not just an automatic thing. So that responsibility and burden is there for deaf women. And also, most services, women, say, for example, rape crisis centre, counselling services, they don't all provide sign language interpreters either. So sometimes, it's a big issue, how do you get the interpreter? Do we have to pay privately for the interpreter? Is there funding available? Where can they access funding? These are all issues that we face on, on a daily basis. And other services, say violence or mental health, domestic violence, stuff like that. These are all stuff that we struggle with on, for deaf women here in Ireland. So the access, is a burden that continues, and mental health, is a real issue. So that's the big challenge. And then on top of, being deaf, if there's a deaf woman who's in a wheelchair, or a deaf woman with, who's from a different country, so it's these multiple layers you can add on to, not just woman, disabled, deaf, and multiple other, issues that can be layered on top.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Barbara, would you like to contribute? You're still muted.
Just asking you to unmute, Barbara. Barbara, just to...
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, remind me of the question.
The most urgent issues facing disabled women in England or in the UK.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that the big urgent question in the last year and a half has been COVID. And I mean, in the UK, we've had more deaths than almost every other country. And 60% or more of the people that have died have been disabled people. And that obviously that'll be disabled women. And I think a lot of disabled women have also, been I mean, trapped indoors, you know, there's been the shielding. And I think that's created all sorts of problems because, you know, we spent 30 years campaigning to get out, to have access in our communities, to have accessible transport, to do all those things. And then all of a sudden we've been sort of pushed back. A lot of disabled women have been pushed back into their homes. And I think that's problematic. And I think another crucial area is that disabled women have got, it's an income thing. And I just think it's probably similar all over the world. But, you know, there's campaigns at the moment around disabled people not getting uplifts in what are called legacy benefits. So in other words, you get benefits that are like specifically disability benefits. And the government has increased benefits like universal credit by £20, but disabled people aren't getting those. And so, as always, it's always been an issue, but poverty amongst disabled women, amongst disabled people. And I think we've got to acknowledge that and really address, you know, some of what we can do to interrupt that. You know, we won't stop it. It's a long-term series of campaigns and series of strategies. But I think we've got to do it because, I mean, people aren't eating. People are stuck. People can't pay their bills. It's a problem.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Ruth, the most urgent issues facing disabled women in Malawi. Would you have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, Ruth, just asking you to unmute again. That's my fault.
Is that good?
Yes, that's great.
All right, thank you. So, well, I think women with disabilities in Malawi, I would take maybe the angle of the issue of justice. So mostly you find that I can even say there's been a lot of silence around issues of GBV and the access to justice, particularly for women and girls with disability. But we know that in general, as in Malawi, there are people talking about issues of GBV in general for other women in general. And the civil society organizations are truly rising up to condemn acts of violence against women and girls. But then the problem is people are turning a blind eye of the injustice or access to justice around people with disability. And so the data is not readily available. I would give an example that we have been working with the Malawi police, the judiciary, and we went there to find out if at all there are cases to do with the women and girls with disability or even any person with disability. You find that their recording system cannot even track, cannot even tell whether the male or the female who has reported the cases is a person with disability or not, which is truly an error that that means those kind of people cannot take into account issues of reasonable accommodation, issues of mobility as they come to access justice. And in the process, we have seen many women and girls with disability, their cases, they do not come to an end. You find that along the way, there is a miscarriage of justice. Maybe they will just stop pursuing the case because those that were supposed to deliver justice are not considering the very needs that women and disability will have. And so another issue is the fact that when we look at the policies that are there in Malawi in general, there are policies that are talking about, of course, maybe women, girls. I feel that most of the times, including persons with a disability, is an afterthought. It is not something that they are supposed to do from the beginning. This is the problem why we come to review the policies. We come to look at, okay, why is it that you did not include in this program women with a disability? So I think that is really a challenge. At the moment, when we're just holding the first ever National Access to Justice Conference, it was an eye-opening. People did not even think about it. We brought together the Chief Justice, the Minister of Gender. We brought together the Commissioners of Police to say, what are we doing? And it was a wake-up call for them to say that, no, I think we are truly not doing enough. Okay. So, yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Ruth. And Rosaleen.
I echo all the former speakers, and I would like to contextualize by saying Ireland has yet to ratify the optional protocol on the UN CRPD, and that would mean that if they ratified it, money would have to be spent by state services, and it also would allow us to challenge services via the legal routes. I'd also want to say generally, and again to our friends outside of Ireland, there's been a view. My family live in London. So the view that Ireland has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. I would say on the surface, but for many women, trans women, disabled women, deaf women, Roma women, that change hasn't impacted on any of our lives. I would go on to say that Ireland has been a very patriarchal country, and they have ruined and destroyed the lives of women, all women. But in this moment of evidence, whether it be the mother and baby homes, whether it be the Magdalens or the children who are buried or sold to America, the voices of disabled and deaf women have been absolutely erased from that testimony. None of our archives, historians, social and political opinion makers, which are predominantly men, mind you, have dared to say that it was disabled and deaf children who were buried in those graves, because we weren't the ones that could be sold to America, because we wouldn't make money. I would also say, and I'm trying to hurry up, two more things, that in 2015, there was a court case regarding 5 women, 6 women, and I need to be careful, so bear with me if I'm very abstract. It was 5 women with learning disabilities who lived in a residential centre in the west of Ireland. I was in that courtroom, and the only thing I would say, even before evidence or before sentences were given, as a preamble to that, those women, the description that was assigned to those women were archaic, offensive, and again it was all male solicitors on both sides. And I would also say, to echo something that Barbara said, and that was the COVID. Just if you indulge me a minute or two, I had COVID, and my experience in the hospital, I'm a survivor of all types of abuse, and there was male workers assigned, and I had to get an advocate from the outside to tell them that I can't have male, and although the hospital responded positively to me, my worry was other disabled women who were put in that situation, were nonverbal, who didn't have the use of a private telephone to get help. Honestly, that was more terrifying than being on a ventilator. Yeah. You know, I also would echo, you know, that in the opening up of our country, the fabric of Irish life, there's no visible representation of disabled women. There's a few disabled men, but there aren't enough. And I just think, you know, what are we doing here? And I would also say, you know, the universal cross-cutting issues of all women, be it gender-based violence, be it sexual assault units, disabled women and deaf women are very rarely covered in the data or research. We don't know where we are and all that. I know we're there. You know we're there, but the state doesn't know we're there. So I suppose your question was issues. I think while non-disabled women have moved into the 21st century and all the apparatus of education and social mobility and all that, disabled women, I would say we're still at 1975.
Oh gosh. Okay, thanks for that, Roisin. I'm getting secret messages here telling me to hurry up, so I better be a good girl. What's very interesting listening to all of you is the commonality of experience. You know, Ruth spoke about the lack of data collection, and we've only really been talking about over that here in Ireland over the last few months, particularly in relation to like women's health services such as cervical checks and breast check, and the lack of access and the lack of data to prove the lack of access. Joe talking about communication, you know, it's only in recent years that your first language became one of the recognized 3 languages of the state, and yet you still have to fight for access to that. And, you know, Barbara and Rosie bring issues around healthcare, particularly COVID, and the impact that has had. It really started to highlight even more so the difficulties there and the life. I don't know about yourself, Rosie, but I've been to like a medical check and turned around, my PA had been thrown out and I hadn't been told. I turned around, I'm left in an empty room. And they felt that was okay. So there's a lot of issues. And even, I know Barbara's the whole kind of movement, in particular in the UK, around the not dead yet. And that whole issue. So seems to be a lot of commonality where we could share and support each other. Just one final question before we move into the discussion part, where people can ask questions. I'm sure a lot more of what you're going to contribute will come through that. Is just looking forward from today, because we really see today as to be the beginning of a conversation. To you, what would international kind of solidarity look like to you? And do you feel it could help you to achieve progress within your own area, within your own country? I just want to throw that out to the four of you, whoever would like to jump in first.
Well, I go ahead.
Great, Roisin. Thank you.
And try and hold me the time. Will you just ask the question again?
To you, what going forward from today, as today being the beginning of a conversation or a movement of solidarity between us, what would that look like to you? How would you like to see that work? And do you think it would be of benefit to some of the key issues that you've identified?
Well, first of all, it's happening, but I'm sure NWCI and other groups, particularly disabled women groups and deaf women, you know, diversity is not a catch-all phrase. Diversity is about planning, thinking, and it's ever evolving. You know, it's not just a word you throw out there. Equality does not work. Whether it's gender equality or disability equality, it doesn't work without diversity. I also think that disabled women, in my experience, among my friends, my peer group, suffer from a huge guilt problem. We're never doing enough. We're never involved in every campaign. We're never, we're overstretched. And I suppose for a lot of us, I feel anyway, that we have to get rid of the guilt. We should be allowed the right, like other women, to move in and out of political spaces and feminist spaces, while at the same time build our career or our family life. And that's all I want to say at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Rosaleen. Barbara?
Well, just very quickly, Matt, women were always very up there in the leadership of Direct Action organisation. And I think one bit of international solidarity that I would like to see is just to see more. I think Direct Action is a really effective means of gaining change alongside the other things that people are doing. It's visible, it's immediate, it can't be ignored, and it brings the issues that we want to talk about very, very much into the public domain. You know, it's when you're blocking traffic in the centre of a city or doing something like that, you cannot be ignored. Extinction Rebellion used it as a strategy as well. So I think we need to kind of start revisiting that. And so international solidarity would be before COVID, and I was doing a lot of traveling for my work for 5 or 6 years, and I was going to different countries and you know, talking. I mean, it wasn't while I was there, but when I was talking to disabled people, it was one of the things that I raised with them, and they were really scared to do it. They said the police are really brutal here, or they're very repressive, and I accept all that. So I'd like to explore internationally the different ways of doing direct action as a means of forcing the issue into public eye and getting change to happen faster. I think we've ground to a halt. I think things are changing too slowly, or in a lot of cases we've gone backwards, and it's hard to accept that, having spent 30 or more years pushing forward. So I think we need to go back to the fundamentals of, you know, what we need to focus on, what we're defending. We need to have an international approach to that, because I think that there are so many common issues. and you know, it would be really good to do that as on an international collective basis.
Oh, I'm in, Barbara, definitely. Love a good fight. Joanne, would you like to add anything?
So really, the same there as Rosaline, what you mentioned about diversity and diverse backgrounds, that there is an awful lot of diversity in the disabled community, and we do have the issues there, the quality issues that we can work together for. There's one project name, sorry, the interpreter just missed the project name. There's one TV documentary there on Netflix that's called CRIPSI or IP, Crip Camp there.
Yeah.
And I watched that, and it really, you know, it gave me chills there. It talked about the American deaf or disabled community and the groups that they have there. The deaf community, they sign, they have interpreters, and they have an awful lot of different activities. They sleep together, and that was really just something I'd love to see happen in our community. And I think it is important there that we do have change. We have the ISL Act there, the program in America and the camp in America. So I think it is important to work together and improve that going forward. That's something that I would like to see.
Thanks, Joanne. Ruth, are you there? Or have we lost you? Oh, you're there, great. Would you like to add anything before we close for discussion?
Yes, I think for me, I think as we can truly work together in influencing the African as well as the international states to truly improve on the issue of data for persons with disabilities, and maybe to develop, review, or even for them to implement inclusive policies. But also maybe we can use this as a way of also connecting or even linking women organizations of persons with disability to funding, resources, and the partnership opportunities that will be able to influence new or existing donors to contribute to maybe a certain human rights basket to provide interventions for persons with disability. I also feel that we need to encourage the formation or even the development of structures and organizations of women and girls with disability so that we are able to strengthen them in regions where they are weak, and maybe we are able to promote the unity of purpose among women with disability in a wider disability movement, but also building their capacity to be able to demand, to access, and even to promote the rights of others. I think I look at it in that way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Well, thank you to all four of you for those really important and valuable contributions. And I'm really interested to hear. I'm going to hand back over to Ali, who's going to manage the contributions from all the people that we've been joined by today. So, Ali.
Great, thank you, Selena. Good to join with you all on this couch. So we have about 15 minutes just to hear perspectives from all of us gathered here, or things you would like to raise, and maybe get a response from our dear guests. And just to share, Selena and others, a couple of comments have already come into the chat to me. I'll just say them before I invite people to raise a hand. Just saying things like, you know, we've got the Disability Act, Equality Act, Special Education Act, and so on. And yet disabled people continue to suffer from discrimination left, right, and center. So a strong feeling there that I think really echoes what we were hearing. And also just, you know, even there's a sort of point around what do you do if even inside the organization you're in, there's kind of abuse happening inside that very organization, then where do you turn? So just another comment there. And finally, just about direct action, that's all, you know, fantastic, but we really need to build the capacity of disabled women, both young and old, so that they are fully at the heart of and part of direct action.